It's okay to leave with your children. Morning. You are wonderful. You'll be fine. Have you met Bethany? Bethany Ed Elder. Pretty phenomenal. How do I get her number? Oh, yeah. I must admit, I'm kind of like,
Who's the secretary for the board? Lee.
Ed,
The
you
real
will,
secretary, not me.
Ed, you will hear, she will be in your inbox immediately. She is extremely efficient and
Yeah,
wonderful.
good. He's head of the Office of Community Complaints. He's really good too.
How are you?
Good. Tell me, how was your holiday?
Hmm?
Good. I was telling David, I said, you know, it's really weird.
No, he's not. I think he's a sergeant.
I just moved, so things are a little hectic and crazy. I know.
Okay.
I know. I closed on the sale of my former home today,
Okay.
so I hope we're done by 2:30. Let's see.
I think we should be. Yeah. It doesn't look like we have a lot in for it.
Last month we were done by 1. Anyway, we shall see. But no, things are good.
Good.
Yeah,
Well,
but I had a good weekend.
always exciting to move. A little stressful, but
Hilarious. Are you the king of understatements? Yes, a little stressful.
yeah, I usually play things a little bit. I don't like drama. We get enough of it in our lives.
Exactly. A little bit stressful, but you know, it's funny. It's one of those things when you're in it and it's stressful. The other side of it is today, well, tomorrow, fire exploded. Well, one home in Kansas City. Let's just
Got another home?
family houses in
Yeah.
Illinois, you know, they all have my name on them. Whereas home in Kansas City,
Okay. We'll simplify things, right? I'd enjoy it. I should have done that
no, no, no.
on my own.
You're busy.
We all are.
Kathy was wonderful in reaching out, and of course David going on to talk to me about, you know, the basics, right? Logistics of things. So, and then and then Bethany is just
Bethany is,
that keeps the trains running on
she
time.
does. She
You
does.
always see Bethany.
I've got an issue. She's usually my first go-to. Good morning. Well, how's your holiday week? It was nice. Yeah. I did do something interesting.
How are you, sir?
I'm well.
Hey, Colonel, how are you?
I
I don't need it.
we went to a dog trial over the weekend, which I've done a lot. This is the first time I'd ever been. I wasn't handling dogs, but I was actually shepherding, moving sheep. It was the first time I'd been in one of those fashions. I'm kind of a dog guy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of dog trials with my dogs for waterfowl and hunting, but it was a herding thing. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So something new, something different.
Really creative. The rest of us just
Eat barbecue.
Yeah.
or sit around, drink a beer, maybe.
I like it. Let's see something different. It was cool. Yeah. I was outside of Park City, Utah. Not a bad place to live.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. This weekend. Yeah, it's a little
But
warm here.
that's what I understand. In the storms, I got reports
Yes.
from a lot of places that the storms are getting bad.
You know, and more people than I know, we didn't lose any power, but I've set of houses in Midtown, but we've lucked out the next few storms. So keep knocking on wood.
Old houses, old power lines.
Right. By the way, your folks did well this weekend. So if you're a mayor, you can stay in town over holiday weekend. You have to go to a ton of events, but our officers, of course, were there too. Great to see celebration at the station. I'll say this later. Went off without a hitch.
I read that, it looked like the turnout was 50,000.
Yeah, it was a pretty good turnout. I mean, it was.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was wondering what the public would kind of do with that, but that was good. And on the whole, every other kind of public community event, I think we did real well. So,
Good. That's great to hear.
absolutely. We talked probably, and I just caught it on the closed session docket. So much to say. I have asked all of my lawyers at times, our lawyer here, closed session without other counsel, please go ahead. It's always happening here somehow.
Okay.
So if not, I'll just drop it off. I think it was very fair to say, and it's kind of what you. Thank you, ma'am.
That'd be appropriate. We just had
I
Memorial Day.
asked my
Yeah,
staff
I think that'd be very nice.
Memorial Day, so
Nice
not
touch.
bad. It may be evening, but okay, so I'll have a little lunch.
Okay, yeah. I think that's perfect.
Yep.
Well, I think that it's 9:27. I think you sort of gather us in about 9:30.
Good morning.
Hey,
How
good
you doing?
morning, good morning.
I believe so. Excellent.
Yeah.
A good solution.
Yeah.
It took a moment.
She better drop himself here.
She did or did not? Well,
So anyway, I would prefer us take the president's privilege and move that down on the agenda. I mean, I think you can.
how'd jury duty go?
I was excused.
Oh.
She's not here yet. I can move that. Mhm.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to officially call our meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody this morning And I would also like to do a special thank you to all of our veterans, since we just celebrated that wonderful 3-day holiday, those of us that got to enjoy it. And this morning, for the Pledge of Allegiance, we have Officer Dave Osbar. And Dave is retiring after 32 years of serving the Kansas City Police Department. He is currently a lead driving instructor at the Regional Training Academy. And he also served in the United States Army from 1986 to 2007. And he was deployed in Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. So thank you.
Please stand. Hands over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, if we remain standing for the invocation. And Pastor Miles.
Thank you so much. Our Heavenly God, we come at this moment thanking you so much for this day. We thank you so much for these officers who go beyond the call of duty to make a difference in our city and to make a difference in the lives of so many persons. We pray, O God, that you will continue to look from the banisters of heaven and keep a watch over them. Guide them that they may do that which is right. They will have this city and the people of this city at heart. And we promise you, if you allow this to happen with these officers and protect them as they are on duty, keep them in your care. And we promise you, if you would do this, we'll give your name the praise for all that you do, all that you have done. And we pray that you will never forget this board and never forget our chief and all of her staff. We pray in thy name. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, so today we have a special board resolution recognizing our former president of our board, Kathy Dean. Oh, there she is. And I'll come forward.
Whereas Kathy J. Dean has faithfully served the Kansas City Police Department for 5 years as a commissioner of the Kansas City Board of Police Commissioners from December 2019 through April 2024, including serving as the president from May 2023 to April 2024, vice president from April 2021 to May 2023, and treasurer from May 2020 to April 2021. And whereas Kathy J. Dean served as the Secretary Attorney for the Kansas City Board of Police Commissioners from May 1989 through October 1994. And whereas Kathy J. Dean received her Juris Doctor degree from the University of Missouri-Columbia School of Law in 1982, and her Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Missouri-Columbia in 1970. And whereas after finishing law school, Kathy J. Dean served as a law clerk to the Honorable D. Brooke Bartlett of the United States District Court for the Western District of Missouri. And whereas Kathy J. Dean practiced law at the Polsonelli Law Firm in Kansas City from 1985 until her retirement in May 2013, where she served as the chair of the firm's litigation department. And whereas Kathy J. Dean's excellence as a lawyer has been recognized by a number of publications, including Chambers USA, the best lawyers in America, the Kansas City Business Journal, Best of the Bar, and Missouri and Kansas Super Lawyers. And whereas Kathy J. Dean was active in the Missouri Bar, serving on its Board of Trustees and on its Board of Governors. And whereas Kathy J. Dean also served as the president of the Association for Women Lawyers of Greater Kansas City and on the Board of Law Foundation of the University of Missouri-Columbia School of Law. Whereas Kathy J. Dean received the Dean of the Trial Bar Award from the Kansas City Metropolitan Bar Association. And whereas Missouri Governor Matt Blunt appointed Kathy J. Dean to the State Government Review Board. And whereas Kansas City Mayor Emmanuel Cleaver appointed Kathy J. Dean to serve on his Public Safety Task Force. And whereas Missouri Governor John Ashcroft appointed Kathy J. Dean to the Governor's Task Force to evaluate the management of the Kansas City, Missouri public school system. And whereas Kathy J. Dean was an active member of the Urban League of Greater Kansas City, serving as the chair of the Board of Governors and vice chair of the Board of Directors. And whereas Kathy J. Dean has been an outstanding member of the Board of Police Commissioners of Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and has exemplified those qualities which are found in the finest law enforcement leaders throughout the country. And whereas Kathy J. Dean's extraordinary leadership, vast knowledge, wise counsel, and dedicated service will be greatly missed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Police Commissioners of Kansas City, Missouri hereby expresses its sincere gratitude and genuine appreciation for Kathy J. Dean's leadership, counsel, and tireless service to the Kansas City Police Department and the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and its sorrow at her retirement as a member of the Board of Police Commissioners of Kansas City, Missouri in April 2024.
I'm late because I didn't get to park in the garage. She told me after I found the place. I loved working with all of you, and I hope that you are as successful now as you have been while I've been here. You're a wonderful group of people, and I wish.
Thank you for everything you've done. We appreciate it, and being an inspiration to me and the board. And thank you. And the department. Thank you.
There's an elevator, so I'll be able to get back.
Kathy, we'd like to acknowledge you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, happy to. It's good to see you. Oh, I didn't know the city had most of the spaces reserved. That's me.
She follows the rules all the time.
I haven't had the pleasure of working with her long, but I know I'm going to miss her. You know, I haven't had an opportunity.
Okay, and now we have the city council updates by the mayor's designee.
Thank you, Commissioner Kramer. And by the way, thank you, Commissioner Dean, for being with us today. Councilman Crispin Rea is here for an update, and we welcome him. I also note that my colleague, Councilman Kevin O'Neill, is here, so if he has something to say after, he's bashful now. So we'll just hear from Councilman Rea. Thank you, Councilman, for being here.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning.
Come on in.
A couple of things I want to give a quick update on. The city has recently taken a very strong stance against illegal dumping. The vast majority of the tickets that are written for illegal dumping are written by investigators with the neighborhoods department. However, sometimes that will include officers. But I will just very briefly outline the steps the city has taken, beginning with an ordinance that the city council passed this last week that increases the penalties for illegal dumping that occurs in certain high-risk areas. Those high-risk areas are vacant lots, unimproved lots, land bank properties, and park property. Oftentimes, you will see these types of properties in high concentration in certain neighborhoods, and so you will see higher concentrations of illegal dumping that children have to pass on the way to the bus stop, that families have to live next door to, that attract critters and vermin and all kinds of things. And so the increased penalties are designed to deter, but when not successful in deterrence, to also punish dumping that occurs in these high-risk areas. Oftentimes what you'll see is that folks will come outside of the neighborhood to dump the trailer or the truck full of garbage or construction materials or furniture, and they do that in certain neighborhoods because they think these are neighborhoods that folks do not value, when that couldn't be further from the truth, because these are neighborhoods with families and children and folks who do care. The increased penalties include an increase in the fine. Currently, it is $1 to $1,000, and so the municipal court judge can impose a fine within that range. However, the fine structure now is for dumping that occurs in these areas. It is a floor of $500 for a first offense, up to $1,000, and then for subsequent offenses, it is an increased floor of $750 to $1,000 in those specific locations where dumping would occur. The increased penalty also includes a shock incarceration 48-hour period for subsequent offenses and/or a mandatory compliance with a community cleanup, community service program, which in talking to some of the attorneys who actually handle these cases, sometimes folks will select the 48-hour period of jail time rather than do the longer, more intensive community engagement, community cleanup program. So the City Council passed this ordinance, and it encapsulates kind of a culmination of efforts the city has taken to address illegal dumping. In this year's budget, the City Council approved funding to expand the bulky item collection program, which will allow folks more opportunities to place large items out on the curb to be picked up rather than be disposed somewhere else. The City Council approved the purchase of an additional clam truck, which is one of the trucks with the arms that will go over the claw and pick up the large items. The Neighborhoods Department has hired 5 new investigators. Up until about 2 months ago, we had 1 investigator that was investigating these cases, and so now we have a total of 6, which I believe is the most we've ever had. And at their disposal will be dozens of new cameras installed at known dumping sites. Councilwoman Patterson Hasley in the 3rd District, who represents the district at large, as well as myself, dedicated several thousands of dollars from our own council budgets to go towards the purchase of additional cameras that will be placed in these locations that the investigators could handle, monitor, and utilize as evidence. And then to address the increase in cases, Municipal Court Judge Wilcher has agreed to create a separate illegal dumping docket so that these cases will all be heard at the same time and managed efficiently. In addition to the ordinance, the city will be engaging in a public information campaign that will be notifying the public of the change in the law, the increased penalties, but also about the city's efforts and the increased bulky item program that will be available to them. So hopefully with all this, these comprehensive steps, we will see a cleaner city, specifically in neighborhoods where they've been plagued by illegal dumping for years. I want to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Raina Park Shaw. I believe since the last time we had an update, she engaged in another large community engagement session out at Swope Parkway as she works to engage our philanthropic community to support a number of the anti-crime initiatives that are going on, from Save KC to KC 360. It was very well attended, and I believe there's very good feedback from that event. Speaking of Save KC, we have our first call-in coming up, and this is the city's sequel to the Focused Deterrence program we saw in 2013 and 14. And so I'm very excited about that because this is the major step in the program to engaging folks and putting the focus deterrent strategy to work. Efforts go on with the city jail as the committee wraps up its work here soon. I've submitted a memo to the committee members with several suggested recommendations that we will discuss and take forward to the full council. It's taken longer and will continue to take longer, but this is a situation where you want to certainly measure twice so you can cut once. I believe that's all I have for today. My office will be sponsoring the wellness barbecue luncheon with the KCPD's wellness employees unit, and that will be Friday. And of course, it's important to make sure we're taking care of our folks, and so we will be doing that on Friday. I believe that's all I have. Councilman O'Neill, did I miss anything? Thank you. Happy to take any questions you all have.
Maybe one, first, an observation. Thank you for the leadership on the illegal dumping. I think that's a great approach to creating value in our neighborhoods so people know that they live in a place that wants to be well cared for. Just a follow-up, last time you reported to us on the effort for the city jail, there was a change in methodology, I believe, to analyze how many beds would be appropriate. Was there additional work undertaken with the consultant in that regard? Is that what has been going on since the last time you reported?
Yes, and I think maybe I was not able to make it last month to give that update, so I'll go back further in time. So we did receive the final report from the consultants, and basically what they gave us was recommendations calculated on several different scenarios. You might recall that the last time I was here, I explained that that a number of things had changed since 2019, and that was reflected in the forensic analysis. And so what we received from the consultants was several scenarios based on those things that had changed since 2019. So it's the arrest rate. It will be staffing now that the mayor and council passed a budget to increase staffing with KCPD. And you look at 2015 levels of staffing and the arrest rate in 2019, and today they're very different, which would all impact the number of beds we would need. Now, those things are factors that can be very fluid and change every 4 years depending on who you have making the political decisions. However, I do believe it is important to have some of that information in a long-term way so that we could understand how it could, in a long-term way, impact the projection of the beds. And so what we received was a number of beds associated with various scenarios. Do we believe the arrest rate will return to 2015 levels, or staffing, which I believe was the last time KCPD was staffed with the 300 positions that we have currently been down? Those are things that are part of the decision-making process. My preference will be to assume a higher arrest rate along with higher staffing, which gives you a slightly higher bed number. But that was all in the report that we received. I'm happy to share a copy with you all to read it, and if you have any additional questions, I could answer those next month.
Councilman, I have a question. First of all, I want to commend you and the council, the mayor, on taking action on the dumping issue that we have in Kansas City. First, maybe an assumption and then a comment. I'm assuming that these areas that people are finding that they can just dump things at, or they might correlate with areas where we have a bit of a higher crime rate. And it would be interesting to see a correlation in cleaning up parts of the city and making them not throwaway parts of the city to decreasing crime and making them a more viable part of our city. So I would just comment on that. I hope there's a correlation there. I'd also second just mention that it will be important to watch when people can't go here, where will they go with their folks who, bad actors who are not using bulky item pickup, when they feel they can't put things here, what other parts of the city will they try to dump items at? So I would just say you have to be mindful of that as you kind of enforce and implement this policy.
Absolutely, and I appreciate both of those comments. I think you are absolutely right. There is a strong correlation between high crime rates and things that happen in neighborhoods and things like illegal dumping. I'm sure that both are symptoms of both, honestly. And in regards to if we are able to successfully deter dumping in those types of locations and we see it moving elsewhere, we will absolutely need to monitor that. And I do think we can put the use of cameras to great effect. If we need to adjust the ordinance, we can do that as well. Sometimes what you see are folks coming in from Grandview and Raytown and other cities to dump their items in Kansas City neighborhoods. Now, I'm not saying I want them to go dump in Grandview or Raytown. However, I believe in the next year to 2 years, when we see how this is working, we can adjust and make any changes we need to.
Thank you.
Councilman Reyes, I just wanted to thank you too for the same thing, taking action on the dumping and that. And then I know I went and saw you at the Northland Chamber. You were speaking about the jail, and I appreciate you being out there and educating people, and I learned a lot as well, and we really want to stay on top of that. And I know at that meeting you had talked about they had a number right now of about 205 beds. Do you know where exactly we came up with that, or could you speak to that now, or is that something in the future maybe we could do a whole presentation on?
We could do a whole presentation on it. But to answer your question, I don't believe there is, for any of the scenarios or recommendations, a 205 figure. The number that we have looked at is based on a 2015 arrest rate, a 2015 staffing rate. The other factors that are often included in these forensic analyses is average daily population, average length of stay, long-term population forecasts. Based on all that, under the 2015 scenarios, when we had higher staffing and a higher arrest rate, the long-term recommendation is 247 beds. Now, what we have also been doing through the committee's work and our conversations are progressing is how do we supplement that with meeting the need, the incredible need around mental health. If you've paid close attention to what's occurred in Vernon and Johnson counties, it's no secret that we are not able to adequately meet, the needs of our inmates who are experiencing mental health issues. The forensic analyst gave us a figure for our mental health need as well. For substantial mental health, which is folks who are experiencing serious issues that probably shouldn't be in a jail cell, psychotic breaks, schizophrenia, bipolar. They identified in our current detained population, there's a need of about 11.3%, which I think calculates to about 27 beds based on the 247 bed figure. We have been in conversations actively with University Health as they build their new mental health facility, and we've been in conversations with other providers, and I am confident and optimistic that if those conversations continue on the trajectory they've been occurring on, we will be able to meet that need. And so that will be additional capacity that we're not building into the jail, but that will be available to mental health, to municipal detainees who are sentenced to jail time but have underlying substantial mental health issues.
Following up on the questions about the jail, what's the current schedule for actually getting something built?
It's going to be long-term. We are not going on the August ballot. November, I think, will be, there are some political considerations with the November ballot that I think will make that difficult. Now, my hope is that the council will take action soon to place it on one of the upcoming ballots. Which ballot will be subject to council conversation. But I do think we can make the decision fairly earlier in respect to what ballot it will go on in the future, whether it's November or April. we can make that decision soon, and then you would see, you know, the campaign part of this in action in the community, explaining to folks why it's important, explaining to folks what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. So we have not as a committee decided which ballot yet. We have not decided that as a council, but I think we can decide that soon.
You know, if I may briefly, and I appreciate the councilman's answers, particularly as chair of our Detention and Rehabilitation Committee, a few positive developments where there are certainly challenges. The councilman noted our work with the state of Missouri and University Health in terms of mental health and mental health beds. I think there is real progress there about their commitment to providing us at least 20 spaces. We have an additional commitment now from Swope Behavioral Services of 10. Note that right now the city of Kansas City and all who work with us have 0. So it would be a rather dramatic change, at least for those who find themselves in mental health need, but also are subject to involuntary commitment with the city of Kansas City. On the election ballot question or the detention facility itself, to be quite candid, one of the more challenging discussions right now, if any of you have a good amount of space in Kansas City where all your neighbors would like a detention facility, is where to put it. We have had conversations. The councilman continues those conversations with our partners at Jackson County. Those proceed. However, certainly we're in a position of wanting to make sure that we can find that sort of space, which is as challenging as almost anything with which we're dealing. And then a final point that I think I might raise, and I commend command staff for this conversation. There is a conversation right now between both this department, the city of Kansas City, and its city council relating to refurbishment of the 8th floor former detention facility. Originally, we thought it was a much lower cost, but as Commissioner Whitaker can tell us, everything ends up a bit more expensive. However, it still is a somewhat cost-effective way to at least handle some detention needs for us long-term. While a brand-new facility certainly would take more time, as you might expect, our hope is that if we can get some good answers there, and we have the consultants that Councilman Rea noted before, working with our city architect and others, that perhaps that's something that gives us a much faster solution for a smaller number of persons that are going through processing, that are being investigated and interrogated by some of our detectives and others, and gives us that solution here in a much faster window, and a solution that I always hate to quote numbers, but is more in the $10 to $15 million range, as opposed to something that's north of $100, $150 million. The benefit of that shorter range, smaller range, and hate to say that we just have it sitting around, but it's easier to find that amount and something that could address 50 to 100 Kansas Cityans that may need incarceration even for a shorter term sooner than we might be able to address the broader issue. So there is progress. We certainly hope that our real estate conversations can proceed with some greater efficiency. Part of the, and cut me off, Councilman, if I'm sharing too much, part of the attraction and the interest of the Jackson County site, for those who may know, is that they've already done a lot of the neighborhood and community work relating to it, so you don't start a whole new kind of conversation relating to that. So we'll keep those chats going, but if not, then identifying a parcel will be probably our next phase. And Councilman, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 18 acres.
18 to 20 acres, and keep in mind, per our own ordinance, it has to be over 1,000 feet from schools, parks, park boulevards, churches, residential areas, which does cut down the number of locations available in the city.
So that's all I had to, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work on this. We appreciate it, and we'll continue supporting you however we can.
Thank you all.
Excuse me. Okay, now our general discussion from our chief, Stacy Grace.
Good morning. I got a couple of things this morning. As we returned from the Memorial Day holiday, I wanted to mention our presence in Washington, D.C. during National Police Week, where Officer James Mulbauer and K-9 Champ were honored at various ceremonies. Our members were present for a ceremony specifically for K-9 officers killed in the line of duty, where K-9 Champ's name was mentioned and read. Officer James Mulbauer's name was read at the candlelight vigil, again at National Police Week Memorial Service, after the President of the United States addressed the thousands of law enforcement that were present for the event. Officer Mulbauer's picture is also displayed in the National Law Enforcement Museum. And I mentioned all of these specific reading of our fallen officers' names and the different places where his picture is displayed, that his name has been engraved on the National Law Enforcement Memorial Wall, is just a reminder to everyone of the significance, the importance, and the value that our nation puts on those who choose to serve in law enforcement. And the risks that our members take matter. Policing is still a noble profession, and the people that we serve, I know, are thankful. So I just wanted to take that moment to recognize that. Over the weekend, our city experienced another, by definition, mass shooting. This incident involved an armed individual actively shooting in a crowd. The shooting suspect was confronted by a security officer who was nearby who stopped the threat. This incident is still under active investigation. I can assure you of that. But the point that I'm making right now, even outside of this investigation, is as a law enforcement official, if we see an individual shooting into a crowd, we consider that individual an active shooter. And regardless of the shooter's intent on striking a specific person or group of persons, if an individual, as we've seen in this, like I said, our fourth situation, is shooting indiscriminately into a crowd because they have some kind of an on-site conflict with someone, no matter who is in the way, or in an area where others are present, innocent bystanders, you'll be engaged by KCPD and other law enforcement as an active shooter. I'm sickened by the lack of self-regulation, the culture of violence, and the harm our small number of violent drivers are causing in our city. We've had children in our city struck by gunfire. We have juveniles involved in violent crime, to include homicides. But I want you to know that KCPD remains committed. We're making arrests. We're filing charges. And as of this morning, we have an 80% homicide clearance rate. Violent crime is a citywide issue, as you've all heard me say, and it requires a citywide approach where all systems and people need to work together to make a change in the trajectory of violent crime and culture of violence in our city. But the people of the city who are actually out here doing the work continue to come together and are actively working on solutions. The people of the city putting in the work to disrupt violence and create a safer city moving forward are hitting yet another milestone, which was mentioned by Councilman Ray, and our focused deterrence efforts in Save KC this week. We'll have our first call-in later this week, and we'll be addressing individuals identified in being involved in violence in our city. Recently, and far too often, KCPD is asked what we are doing about violent crime. Each time I'm asked, I speak about all our efforts, our initiatives, our collaborations, and ending the cycle of violence in Kansas City. We, KCPD, are out here doing the work, even when the streetlights are on. We are in our communities, we're working together as one. I'm not trying to be cheesy, but we are working as one in our city. And I say all this to not only remind the Board of Police Commissioners of our efforts, but to also remind the members of KCPD that the hours and efforts they put in matter. That we may not see the results as quickly as we would like, but we need to hold fast to the mission and do the best we can with what we have control over and fulfill our obligations for a safer city the absolute best way that we can. So that's just a reminder for all. We're in it, we're working, we're steadfast in the mission, and we are full steam ahead on creating a safer city. In closing, last week, myself and several major city chiefs convened for a spring conference. I appreciate these meetings as we all learn from each other and we all face common challenges. The challenges that we're facing in Kansas City are nationwide. It's not unique to us. And we're all experiencing challenges in combating violent crime, street racers, which we'll talk about here in just a bit, recruiting new officers and so on. And I mention this to let the board know about my commitment to ensure I am well informed on nationwide initiatives, innovative strategies, and policing trends across our country. And in the next week or so, I'll be attending a federal agency-hosted convening of law enforcement leaders to bring back more information to Kansas City. And lastly, KCPD is regarded as a well-respected police department amongst national law enforcement. Not only am I getting ideas from others, but I'm also sharing innovative strategies that we're doing here in Kansas City. So I just wanted to let the board know about that. And am always thankful to have the opportunity to make those conferences and to bring that information back to Kansas City. That's all for me, unless you have any questions.
Any questions?
I may start, Chief, by commending our department for this past weekend. You and I had the misfortune, perhaps, of standing on the steps after the February 14th incident, and many people asked about this department. Many people asked somewhat critical questions, and I know that's part of the job. However, when we have weekends that come out well and major events that come out well, we don't get asked the same questions, and again, that's part of the job as well. But I may note, as someone who attended the celebration at the station,
Yes.
I believe roughly 50,000 people from Kansas City and surrounding areas attended. It was well secured. It was a wonderful event, a family event, and to the extent people have any stories coming from it, it's a symphony concert, fireworks, that sort of thing, just what we want. I commend you all for that. The next morning, I was at another larger public event at the World War I Museum. Again, our officers were present. It went off without incident. People got to be there and recognize those who have fallen. Throughout the past weekend and past weeks in Kansas City, and really past months, our officers, and I commend our command staff, have done an outstanding job working with event organizers, securing major events, and it's why myself and my family feel safe at every public event in Kansas City. And that's a tribute to all of you, and I want to make sure our officers know that some of us are noticing that as well. One other point that I will make as to you, Chief, and I appreciate your attendance at the Major Cities Chiefs Conference. Some weeks ago, the Chief and I also attended a conference, a collaboration of the United States Conference of Mayors and several chiefs from departments around the country. One of the most impressive mayors in the country is a woman by the name of Jane Castor, who was a police chief, I think for roughly a decade in Tampa, Florida, had great success in reducing homicides, handling major events, and others. After Chief Graves' presentation, I had a conversation with former Chief and Mayor Castor, the mayor of Fort Worth, Texas, a fairly safe city, and others, about how impressed they were by the work that our department is doing. That means a lot to me, to hear that from other places. I know sometimes there may be members of the public who think that this is just an echo chamber where we all just talk about the same things, and I guarantee you it's not. This department, myself, I think this board, we're all self-critical. We're critical of each other. We ask important questions, but it means a lot to me when we have other American cities that deal with a plethora of different things, and we're looking at leadership in those positions. We talk often about it with violent crime, but if you look at the fentanyl epidemic and the work that I think this agency is doing to try to help fight it, if you look at even nuisance offenses, I appreciate street racing, even though I think that rises above nuisance personally, but nonetheless, all of the offenses with which we deal, I think we're doing important work that others are noticing. So this is just me giving a diatribe to say keep up the good work in that regard. I'm heartened by, I think, the efforts we're taking now, and I know that there are more ahead. So thank you for them.
Thank you for that, Mayor. I appreciate it. I was thinking the same thing about all of the large events that we have had in Kansas City to include a celebration of the station. Thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And to be noted, too, like you said, that 80% clearance rate is phenomenal, because I know nationwide it's, what, about 50?
I'm not sure, but last year I think it was like 50 to 60%.
Yeah, so I think we're doing an outstanding job, and thank you, and keep it going. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, now we're going to Investigative Bureau with Deputy Chief Niemeyer.
Good morning.
Morning.
My items will be under tab B in your board book, or you can follow along with the presentation. First thing I'd like to comment on is our property crimes unit. A lot of people we don't discuss property crimes a lot because we're talking violent crime all the time. But I think it's important. Property crimes affect more residents of Kansas City than any other crime. Our 6 property crimes units investigates burglaries, stolen autos, shopliftings, property damages, stolen auto, and that's just a few of the crimes that they investigate. I'd like to take this first few minutes to recognize some of the work that has been happening in their units. Central Patrol Division, this past month, they had a prolific burglary suspect that they were able to file 2 secondary burglary charges while the suspect was in custody and received a significant bond, which is, I bring that to the board's attention because a lot of times when it comes to property crimes, we don't hold people while they're in custody. Metro Property Crimes filed 34 cases that not only included property crimes, but also a felon in possession of firearm, possession of a controlled substance, and also eluding arrest. East Patrol Division arrested a known violent felon and charged him with 8 felonies to include stolen auto that also led to a significant bond, and we were able to hold that individual while the Violent Crimes Bureau was working a case, but the Property Crimes Unit was able to get that person held. North Patrol has a prolific shoplifter. The suspect, when arrested, had 22 Kansas City, Missouri City warrants, a Platte County warrant, a Gladstone warrant, a North Kansas City warrant, and they also filed additional charges with the Platte County prosecutor. The Shoal Creek Property Crimes Unit also has a shoplifter. That suspect has 71 reports in which she was either entered as the suspect or a subject to interest. 54 reports were taken just this year in 2024. The suspect is currently being held in custody and has felony warrants out of Platte, Clay, Johnson, and Wyandotte counties. This is a person that was affecting metro-wide. South Patrol also arrested a known suspect, property crime suspect, and while taking that suspect into custody, an illegal firearm was found in that person's possession with an illegal switch on that gun. These are just examples of the work that has been done over the last month. And as you can see, the Property Crimes Unit deals with all types of crime, and they absolutely are part of assisting us with our violent crime problem. So I just wanted to take those few minutes. As many people do not hear us, we don't a lot of times talk about that part of our department, but that's 1 month's worth of work from our 6 division stations. Today's blue sheet. In 2024, we've had 56 homicides compared to 70 homicides at this time last year. 2024, we have cleared 32 homicides, 13 homicides from previous years for a total of 45 cases. And as the chief stated, that's an 80% homicide clearance rate to this point. In April, we had 14 homicides. 6 of those were cleared by arrest. Three are solved, but not yet cleared, but they're solved, and 5 are still under investigation. And to break that down by division, we had 2 homicides in Center Zone, 2 homicides in Metro, 7 homicides at East, 3 in North Patrol, and none for South or Shoal Creek. Our non-fatal shooting comparison report, and this is as of last Friday, which is January the 1st through May 23rd. We'd had 238 non-fatal shootings. In 2023, 186 victims during that same time period, which is an increase of 28% from last year. In the month of April, we had 48 non-fatal shootings, and compared to 40 in 2023 for a 20% increase in that month. As you can see, our non-fatal shootings are up. And I just want to address a little bit of that as a reminder. We had 20 plus victims at the parade. We had 5 in an incident this weekend. We had several on Independence Avenue. We've had 4 or 5 incidents with multiple victims. When that occurs, that's the increase that you're seeing. Not that we're not having an uptick in other non-fatal shootings, but I just continue to remind the board that it's going to be up. Hopefully, it won't be up, but that's why we're up at this point. So I did want to address one case, and there's been a lot of questions. I know Colonel Maben's been getting a lot of questions about it. The chief has gotten a lot of questions. We had an 11-year-old girl, Courtney Freeman, that was killed in April. We have arrested a suspect in that. It's a juvenile, 16-year-old juvenile suspect who is detained. Can't really go into a lot of details, but because they're both juveniles. But just so the public knows and everyone knows that there is a 16-year-old juvenile suspect charged in that case. As of last week, I believe it was last week that we got the charges filed. During the month of April, we submitted 346 cases to prosecutors, 283 cases to Jackson County, 37 to Clay, 26 to Platte, and 0 to Cass County. So I wanted to mention, because I thought these numbers were pretty amazing. On April the 27th is National Drug Take-Back Day. We recovered 59 boxes, big boxes of prescription drugs that were unused for a total weight of 1,335 pounds of prescriptions to be destroyed. I was, to be honest with you, that number was kind of astonishing to me that we got that much turned in one day. But it made me look at some other numbers, and I don't have those up there, but I'll read them to you. Is the Special Investigations Division has also continued to work overdoses, as well as recover a large amount of narcotics. Year to date, we've worked 107 overdose cases. 57 of those have been fatal, while 50 have been non-fatal. Our DU admin that I talked about last month continues to work on all of those cases. But the recovery of narcotics is up significantly this year. Cocaine, we've recovered 14 pounds compared to 3.5, which is a 292% increase of recovery. Methamphetamines is 292 pounds compared to 112 last year, which is up 164%. Fentanyl, we've recovered 42 pounds compared to 24, up 72%. PCP, we recovered 56 grams compared to 44 grams, which is up another 22% of recovery. And the only category of major narcotics is heroin, where we recovered 9 grams compared to 40, and that's the only one that is down in comparison. So our folks are recovering a significant amount of narcotics off the streets. So I just wanted to commend them for their hard work. And lastly, before I take questions, this is just on a side note. I wanted to say after finishing her bachelor's degree this month, this past week, Sergeant King traveled to Lincoln, Nebraska, and competed in the Cowboy Mounted Shooters Association National Championships. And with over 270 shooters, she took first place and is a national champion. But, not to be outdone, her daughter Critley also competed and won her Wrangler division. And so there's 2 national champions in one household, the King household. So proud of her. So with that, on a happier note, I will take your questions and hope to get out of here safely.
Any questions?
Any questions on my report?
Well, I would just like to say thank you, and I know property crimes has really gone up. I know, car thefts, all of that has gone up, and I'm excited about the jail system because I think that that's going to be a major deterrent. And it's my understanding that on a lot of these crimes, it is hard to process unless we have something like a firearm or something a little bit more that we can give them some time. But I do appreciate the efforts. I know, all the victims in these crimes appreciate getting their things returned. And again, all the hard efforts that go out there and make a difference for all the people involved. Thank you. Okay. So, that was it for Deputy Chief Niemeyer. Parole. Deputy Chief Maven.
Good morning, Commissioners.
My information is under tab C in your books. I'll begin with Patrol Bureau updates and notable events. Next, I'll cover the median response time report, and then I will conclude with the traffic summary. Begin with the Community Engagement Division. The Police Athletic League had a total of 1,495 visits this month. The average number of daily visits was 88. They also had 37 new enrollments. Our community interaction officers attended a 40-hour course on crime prevention through environmental design, commonly referred to as CEPTED. For those of you who are not familiar with CEPTED, it's a multidisciplinary approach to deterring criminal behavior that focuses on changing how physical spaces are laid out. The idea suggests that you can change how people act in a place by altering how it looks. Previously, only a couple of our CIOs had been trained in CEPTED, but now all of our CIOs will be able to conduct assessments and offer recommendations to community members and businesses on how to make their spaces less hospitable to criminal activity. And this ties directly into the data-informed community engagement that is one of the main components of the Chief's crime plan. DARE officers taught in 22 different schools the previous month, 65 different classrooms, and reached 1,499 students. And our Westside CAN officers work with volunteers from the Tony Aguirre Community Center picking up trash for Earth Day. Move on to Special Operations Division. The tactical response teams handled 6 Operation 100s and executed 17 search warrants during the reporting period. They also made 3 federal and 9 state warrant arrests. K-9 section. They responded to 89 calls for service. During one of those calls, K-9 Rocks assisted in apprehending a bank robbery suspect. And our new dogs, K-9 Finn and Carlos, are both in the process of getting their required certifications. Finn is now certified for explosive detection, and Carlos is certified to detect heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine. Bomb and arson section responded to 6 arsons and 2 fires where the cause was undetermined. They recovered 5 improvised explosive or military devices and responded to a bomb call involving suspicious packages. They also provided static displays for the Rotary Club, Kelly Brook Elementary School STEM Night, the KC Chamber of Commerce, and KCPD's Take Your Kids to Work Day. Helicopter section flew 95 hours and responded to 160 calls for service, of which they were first on scene 60 times. They also assisted the traffic division in street racing enforcement activities. That we'll talk about here in a second. Moving on to median response time reports. The median response time during the month of April for Priority 1 calls was 8 minutes and 47 seconds. That is a 23-second increase compared to March. The median response time for Priority 2 calls was approximately 11 minutes and 10 seconds. This is a 40-second increase compared to March. Reducing response times is a top priority of the Patrol Bureau. It should be noted that Patrol has made some dramatic changes here since January. One, we implemented the 11-hour schedule, shift bidding for the first time. Dispatching officers previously was primarily based on on sector assignment, but now it's geolocation. Also, we've had a bunch of mandatory training outside of in-service training. So if you add all that up, it's a lot of different factors. And so we're trying to figure out which specific ones are contributing to the increase in response times. However, we've already started trying to address them. Recently, we changed how roll calls are conducted, hopefully to get officers on the streets faster at the beginning of their shifts. And we may have to slightly adjust start times to provide better coverage during shift changes. But that is a top priority and that we're working on right now. The 911 average hold time for April was 44 seconds. That's an 11-second increase compared to the previous month. Traffic report. On April 7th, the Traffic Division and Patrol Division personnel partnered with KCK Police Department in a joint street racing enforcement operation. This operation resulted in 39 successful stop-stick deployments, 3 vehicles towed, 27 traffic citations, 1 summons for child endangerment, 4 city warrant arrests, 1 felony warrant arrest, and 1 firearm recovered. And although this will be discussed during next board meeting, we also had another sideshow enforcement operation just this past Friday. And not to be outdone, this month, May 15th, we had an extensive seatbelt enforcement operation. You know, we've discussed how not wearing seatbelts is a contributing factor to our fatality accidents and crashes. During that operation, we had 215 stops and 194 seatbelt tickets issued. DUI section conducted 7 wolf pack operations in April with a combined total of 105 traffic stops. They issued 123 tickets, made 31 DUI arrests. There were additional 56 DUI arrests not associated with wolf packs during the month, bringing the department total to 87. Traffic Investigation Unit responded to 9 fatality crashes during the month of April. One of these fatalities was a hit and run, and it has been solved. 4 more of the fatality crashes have been solved, and the case files will be presented upon completion of the investigations. The remaining 4 were exceptionally cleared with the death of the offender. 2 fatality crashes from the previous month were also cleared. From the beginning of the year through the end of April, there were 33 fatal crashes with 38 people killed. And finally, the parking control section conducted saturation patrols and abandoned vehicle sweeps during the reporting period in 2 areas, 35th Street to 63rd, Michigan to Prospect, and also Gladstone to 35th Street, Woodland to Benton. These operations resulted in 31 cars being marked as abandoned vehicles, 6 citations issued for parking on the sidewalk, and 4 vehicles being towed. That concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Maybe just a couple of follow-up questions. First, you mentioned the canines and the work that they're doing, and I just am curious if that is or has a correlation to the uptick in the drug recovery that Colonel Niemeyer mentioned also, if the canines were part of that investigation.
I'll defer to Colonel Niemeyer on that one.
So we actually have, in the narcotics section, we have additional canines. So a lot of the reports that Patrol Bureau, they have their own canines. So our canines and his canines as well do contribute to the number. So I would say, I would answer that with a yes in totality, but I think the large quantities and the numbers that I gave you didn't include Patrol Bureau, if that makes sense. In your board book, there is a totality where we include both narcotics and patrol into one number, but the numbers that I gave you was just out of SID.
Thank you. Let me shift gears now and talk about the increase in the response times that you mentioned, both for priority 1, priority 2, and the 911 calls. And this may be for later on in our board meeting, but last month we talked about the start of the automated system on callbacks, and it seems like it had some initial benefit. Or are we seeing any other benefits because the data doesn't illustrate that we're reducing the response times?
You know, that one I'll defer to Colonel McCullum.
But
Good morning. We're seeing, and we're still looking at the data as it comes in, but for just the month of April, for the abandoned callback that you were referring to, we had 9,437 abandoned calls. Of those, a little over 1,500 is where the person, when it was called back, selected that they wanted to talk to a actual dispatcher. 4,400 of those calls were a no response when the system called it back. And 1,900 of those were rejected, where it called the caller and they selected not to have a police response. So we're still looking to see if it is having an impact. Last year, we're actually down 2 seconds from where we were this time last year, still trying to trend in the right direction as noted by Colonel Maben, but it's still a little early to see if it's going to have the intended effect.
And I will say, yearly, we do see an increase in response times in April compared to March, just because we have a higher volume of calls as the weather starts to get warmer. Recognizing that, we still are trying to reduce response times, but it is a typical trend to come up during the spring and summer months.
That helps. Thank you.
You just answered my question, so thank you. I was wondering about that trend with the warmer weather and response going up.
Just a quick follow-up on the response times, because it sticks out like a sore thumb. Maybe one question is, maybe background for me as a new commissioner on how the goal is set. And then as you look at the 3 years of data on the response times, I mean, is it a function of resources? Is it a function of geography? Noting that, some areas are maybe more exceeding the desired response times in other areas of the city. I mean, what are the predominant factors? Because we're sitting at a goal of 7.5. And if you look at, what's that green, NPD 11.6, and it's just kind of, and then some are closer to goal. So is it a
Right.
matter of resource shifting or?
Possibly. So that's a good question about the goals. I cannot find a nationwide or industry standard for that particular response time. You do have ones for 911 answers, calls and how fast 911 calls are answered. But just because jurisdictions are so different in terms of, we have 319 square miles, certain jurisdictions are much more densely populated. And so it's hard to have a straight through line for that goal. And I've been unable to determine where we initially set that goal. We're still doing some research on that. And so, goals are supposed to be smart, specific, measurable, achievable. I'm not sure that is achievable. Maybe we need to look at revising that goal. To your
And
point.
Commander, I'm not advocating raising the goal. I just wanted the background on, as
Right.
I look at this, it's like, wow, so we clearly are not meeting the goal.
Right.
And I just wanted some background on how is that set?
Right.
And then what are the big rock items that we can move? Is it
Right.
timing? Is it resources?
It's complex, and we're looking at that. You mentioned North Patrol, Shoal Creek. They are the largest geographic areas for patrol divisions, and those are the ones that are typically the highest response times, which you would expect considering there's more difference or distance to cover. Another factor that may change here soon, we're training half of patrol in the Arbinger study. We talked about this several months ago, where we're trying to change some culture, trying to get better customer service. But in doing so, we're taking half of patrol out for 2 days to receive that training, and that started in March. And so hopefully we'll get that done here within the next couple months. So it's a complex issue, and there's obviously certain things we can do to help influence that, which could be changing some start times to have more coverage so that you're not so thin in terms of officers at some high call volume times. So we're looking at a lot of things, but if it was an easy solution, we would have changed it by now, but it is a top priority. And with I agree, we don't want to just arbitrarily raise the goal, but if this goal was set 20 years ago when you didn't have the prevalence of cell phone calls, 911 calls, or it just might not be realistic or achievable at this point, with the understanding that we're going to get it down as fast as as fast as we can.
Thank you. Quick follow-up on SEPTID. Let me congratulate you and just I'm excited about the thought of sort of design engineering in spaces, in neighborhoods. I take it as more officers are certified for that. You will go beyond sort of working with homeowners to maybe neighborhood associations, HOAs. Is that the plan with SEPTED?
Well, one of the things that we're doing is, you may recall the city has stood up their multidisciplinary task force where we work with neighborhoods, public works, other different city services, and we identify the RTM, risk terrain modeling areas, and we go into there and see if there's a convenience store, if there are businesses, if there's, houses, other things in those specific areas, so we have more officers to go in and do those surveys. But also, hopefully, people will just start requesting them on their own and reaching out. And also, we work with a lot of multifamily housing buildings, associations. So to your point, hopefully increasing the number of officers that we have available to do that, we can, spread it around better.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Any more questions? All right, thank you, Deputy Chief Maben. And now we have Administrative Bureau with Deputy Chief Ortiz.
Good morning, Commissioners. My information is under tab D on your books. As you can see, our current department strength is at 1,081 police officers or law enforcement. We have 35 police officer candidates and 513 professional staff members. In terms of law enforcement hiring, we have 40 candidates in the process of possible eligibility. We have 6 confirmed candidates for the 182nd class, which starts June 17th. 9 candidates pending job offers, 3 lateral candidates, and 2 rehires. Our communications unit, we hire 1 member and have 3 job offer pending and 4 members in the process of possible eligibility. Last week, on May 23rd, we had 31 candidates conducting the physical agility test. 28 are going to continue into the process. And the next testing dates will be June 27th, July 27th, August 28th, and September 26th. And this is all happening in our academy. So anybody out there that's still planning on joining our police department, they can just give us a call and show up for the testing. Our department offers a wide variety of openings, or we have openings available, not just in law enforcement, but any other career. So please join our KCPD or visit us at kcpd.org/careers to see the variety of offers or open positions that we have, so we can talk with you and hopefully join our team. Our wellness unit is a proactive unit and continues supporting our members during their most difficult times. Since May 1st, our members contacted 134 members that are going through some sort of crisis, and we appreciate their support for our department members. And we're actively engaging within or with our community members through recruitment. We encourage anyone interested in, again, joining our department. These are the places and hours and times that we're going to be conducting recruitment. Please visit us, and we'll be happy to explain the whole process and all the benefits that we have in our department. Unless you have any other questions, that will conclude my presentation.
One question. In the 180th class, there seems to be a significant drop-off in completion compared to other classes I've seen. Is there any particular explanation why we lost so many of the candidates there? 7 out of 18.
We started with 18, and we ended up with 10. There were several personal reasons that some of them didn't complete the academy for those reasons. We don't have a trend. We don't see a trend that is that or any issue that we have. The majority was personal reasons. that they couldn't complete the academy. We're trying to see what trends, if possible, but we don't have anything that could say, yeah, they're having issues because of this, and that's the reason why they're not passing. Many of them were personal reasons.
We did have one injury,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Where we hope that person will just be
Recycled.
recycled into another class. Mhm.
Correct.
Thank you.
Quick question on those ones that had personal reasons that for some reason didn't make it. Did we look at maybe putting them in other areas, like the 911 area or
Absolutely.
communications? Yeah.
Absolutely, that's one of our practices. As soon as they either inform us or we realize that this person is not at the level that they need to be, then those are the offers that we always offer in a position that they could fit in or depending on what they like. So, yes,
Great.
definitely.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Executive Service Bureau, Deputy Chief McCollum.
Good morning, Commissioners. All items for the Executive Services Bureau is under tab E of your board book. Item A, budget transfers for fiscal year 2024-25. I request transferring the following appropriations within the Grants Fund. The Police Grants Fund transfer moves $500 from personal services and $10,150 from capital outlay, totaling $10,650 to commodities and $77,840 within contractual services. The Police Grants Fund transfer adjusts appropriations to where they are needed now compared to when they were estimated in the fall of 2023 as the budget was being put together. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Move to approve the transfer.
Second?
Okay, it's been, any discussion? Okay. This time we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 It's been approved.
Item B, adjustment to special revenue accounts for fiscal year 2024-25. The department anticipates making several purchases through various donations or donated funds. To facilitate these purchases, it is necessary to make adjustments to the appropriations of the Special Services Fund. This adjustment will allow for better tracking and transparency. Therefore, it is requested that $615,000 be adjusted within the Special Services Fund to process the donations and purchases. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? It's been seconded and approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item C, adjustment to special revenue accounts for fiscal year 2024-25. I request your approval to adjust appropriations for purchases related to a previously received Walmart donation and Jackson County 911 tax revenue. The total adjusted amount is $118,533. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion's been approved. All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
okay. Motion's been approved.
Item D, Thomson Reuters Clear ProFlex subscription. The board is the fiduciary for the Kansas City Emerging Threats Analysis Capability System, better known as KCETAC. The department recently paid $73,429.55 to Thomson Reuters Clear ProFlex on behalf of the KCETAC Governing Board. To efficiently administer our subscription, the department has transitioned to a direct agreement. The cost for a one-year subscription is $101,865.60. Due to payments on behalf of KCETAC and the department's direct agreement for the Thomson Reuters Clear subscription service, the combined total is $175,295.15. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion's been approved.
Item E, Midwest HIDA Task Force grant agreement. The department recently received notification of the fiscal year 2024 Midwest HIDA, also that's High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, Task Force award in the amount of $1,105,945 for the period beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2025. This program provides funding to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of collecting evidence for narcotics and gang investigations. This is the 27th year for this funding and is 100% federally funded. Unless you have any questions, I request your approval to accept this award.
I move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion's been approved.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chief's Executive Office.
Good morning.
Chief
Morning.
Young, good morning.
I have 5 policies for your approval. I will say the unauthorized leave of absence, stop report data, employee support wellness resources policies were all basically just updated and had very few changes. The timekeeping procedures was updated mostly because of the 11-hour plan change. And the appearance policy, we revised our tattoo language. And other than that, if there are no questions, I recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion's been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Office of General Counsel.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have 2 action items for you, and they're under tab G in your board book. The first is an appeal by Eric C. Rosenberger of the Private Officer Licensing Unit's revocation of his unarmed private security license. On April 3rd, 2024, Rosenberger displayed a firearm at a gas station at 900 East 63rd Street while asking if he could have a beer, regardless of not having the money to pay. At the time he made this demand, Rosenberger was wearing a black security jacket and appeared to be intoxicated. On April 4th, 2024, the Private Officer Licensing Unit revoked Rosenberger's license due to his conduct violating the Code of State Regulations, 17 CSR 10-2.060 8I. April 22nd, Rosenberger appealed this revocation. If you have any questions, Manager Tammy Gallagher or I am happy to provide you additional information. Otherwise, the Private Officer Licensing Unit recommends upholding the revocation of Rosenberger's license.
Any questions?
Move to uphold the revocation.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. My second action item is an appeal by Hans C. Brosem of the Private Officer Licensing Unit's denial of his application for an unarmed private security license. Brosem was previously employed by the Missouri Department of Corrections from 2017 to 2024, but was terminated on April 4th, 2024 for violation of DOC policies. On April 24th, 2024, Brosem applied for an unarmed private security license. On April 26, 2024, the Private Officer Licensing Unit denied this application due to Brosem's conduct violating the Code of State Regulations, 17 CSR 10-2.050 3O. Brosem appealed on May 3rd, 2024. The Private Officer Licensing Unit recommends upholding the denial of this application. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Is there any more basis behind what policies were at play with his separation from Department of Corrections?
Yeah, they didn't provide us the policies that he violated. He referred in his appeal letter to some misuse of the computers.
Yeah, I saw that.
I move approval to uphold the denial.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. The remainder of my report will be in closed session.
Okay, Office of Community Complaints, Muriel.
Good morning, Commissioners. I do not have a verbal report. However, our written report is submitted under tab H. And just as an explanation, generally the Office of Community Complaints reports on a quarterly basis because due to our stated timelines, if we report on a monthly basis, we really would just be giving you intake numbers as opposed to outcomes. So that's generally why, other than every quarter you hear from me. So I just want to give an explanation for that. I didn't want to think that I was punting every month. But,
Thank you.
So we don't, unless you have any questions for me, I'll be prepared to report back in July.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. David, public comment?
Public comments, we have Ron Hunt.
Congratulations to my favorite officer, Bobby King. I love Bobby King. I have right here our board, I'm sorry, to board president, to the chief, to the board. I have a event that's coming up. I don't know why Jake didn't put this up there. I kept telling him to put this up on his website. But June the 8th, we're having a family festival. We're expecting probably about 2,000, 3,000 people. And the highest part of the city where crime is high, and that's that east side area. So I'm hoping the chief will be there. Well, I think she will. I've been working with Deputy Chief Maben and KCP. I'm hoping y'all put out a booth in terms of employment. So I'm hoping you do that. We're expecting a lot of people. We're giving away. You're one of the sponsors. See y'all's logo right here? There's the logo. KCPD. Okay? Another thing I wanted to address about violence. I really appreciate you guys, especially our homicide division, for doing their job. I mean, it's really appreciated. When Courtney Freeman was shot, myself and another colleague of mine, within the first 48 hours, I talked about that. It's critical. And I know that I don't want to criticize any organization. I gotta get to. I want to criticize any organization, but as a taxpayer, if I'm paying somebody to fight crime, that should be beyond 5. You know, these groups that we're paying, it looks good on the surface. It looks good on the surface, but when I went out and went door to door, and I don't get paid for this. I don't get a contract from anybody. We just do it because we love people. We want to see our city safe. But if we're paying people, it's good to sit down and have lunch. And everybody, you know, you see what I'm saying? Kramer, listen to me real quick. It's good to sit down and have lunch and everybody laugh and, you know, meet each other and say, okay, we're going to talk about crime. But if you have no men or nobody out there on the street knocking on these doors, you're not getting anywhere. You're playing with yourself. You got to have people out within the first 48. But wait, the first 48 hours I was out there, I got valuable information. I sent it to him. The people will give you information. That's what I'm saying these crime-fighting organizations should do. These people get paid, so we have to create a program after 5. Where's my councilman, Calvin O'Neill? We have to create a program after 5 and disseminate information. We need to take advantage of the media and all of this crime. I'm serious. If you really, really want to fight crime, you know, I've been coming here for how long? I care about my city. I'm here. I care about what you guys do, and I commend you. I support you. So I'm going to leave it at that, Kramer.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Congratulations, Bobby King.
David, any more?
That's all we have. Unless there's anybody else, this is all I had on the signature page, sign-in page.
Okay. Approval of the open session minutes. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And David?
Yes, I have Resolution 2406. The purpose of this regulation is when we revised the regulations for the private officer licensing unit relating to discipline for private officers. The Secretary of State required us to provide for some form of a hearing. This is going to be a hearing on the record, not an in-person hearing, and we need to designate somebody to be that hearing officer. I think I've been drafted to be that hearing officer, and so this resolution is for the board to appoint me to do that. So I would recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
David, you're appointed.
Congratulations, David.
Okay, the mayor's
That's
not
all I
with
have.
us. Commissioner Roman?
No comments, just second meeting in, and I commend you all for the work you do. It was a rough weekend. I mean, as we have so many, but is Jake here? I've not met Jake yet. I heard someone mention Jake. The communication from the team on what's happening and has been phenomenal. The communication from the chief has been phenomenal. So thank you all for what you're doing, really. So with that, that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Whitaker?
Thanks. I'm going to be brief, but I do want to pick up on your comments, Chief. I was in 5 major cities last week, and I can tell you that what Kansas City is experiencing is not unique. We're seeing this across the country, both in terms of violent crimes, but also in terms of the need for people and talent. We are not alone. At the same time, what this department is doing and what you recognized with the hard work and effort that is behind every one of our initiatives and our tactics is not lost on this board. We see it, and we commend you all, and I feel very good about my city coming home last weekend and seeing what's going on across the country, but feel good about the efforts that we're making here. So thank you very much. That's all.
Okay. Well, and I would like to say thank you all for being patient with me today as my first meeting as president. I appreciate everybody, and I appreciate this board and working with such great people, and really look forward to, supporting everybody here, and appreciate all of our department and what you guys do. You guys do make a difference and keep on making a difference, because like you said, it is everywhere, and I've been back and forth to Phoenix a lot too, and actually, they're making us look really good. I mean, their crime's really bad there as well, so, I mean, it's like we just got to all work together as a village, and, we all want a safer community, so thank you for helping make that happen.
Motion to go into closed.
Move to go into closed session.
Second.
Roll call.
Whitaker, aye.
Kramer, aye.
Romeus, aye.